Okay, y'all, I just wanted to say that this video is going to be kind of crazy because I am a little tipsy. I've been driving the boat, and so my words are a little slurred. So I just kind of wanted to give that disclaimer. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. For those of you that don't know, my name is Jada, and I'm back today to talk about a subject that's kind of been on my mind a lot lately. So I've wanted to talk about this for a really long time, and so I just decided I'm just gonna get on here and do it. The subject matter is wars between black ethnic groups, diaspora wars between Africans, African-Americans, Afro-Caribbeans, and even sometimes I think I see like Afro-Latinos kind of getting in the mix there. So it's just a big mess, y'all. Like, I'm gonna start with my perspective as an African-American woman. Both my parents, my whole lineage is from America, all from Louisiana. And yeah, that's pretty much all I knew all my life. I grew up in Texas, and I knew some Africans coming up. Like, I went to elementary school with a few, but it was just like, I didn't really know. I got two cousins that are half Nigerian, and so I remember being a child and just like not understanding, like just knowing that they had different names and asking my mom, like, why do they got those type of names? Because their names are Donnie and Uchenna. And so I would ask my mom, like, why are they names like that? Because I really just didn't understand. But she was just like, they're African and their names have a meaning or whatever. She made up something, like, I'm pretty sure she know what the meaning of, but she told me something about what their names meant or whatever. So I was just like, oh, okay, It wasn't really like I understood like what that meant. It was just like, but that was really one of my first introductions to like understanding the idea of like the layers of blackness. Growing up African American, we are not taught to have ethnic pride. We are taught to have racial pride only. And I think that's our biggest mistakes. And I think that can be an issue when it comes to other black ethnicities, because they feel like, we don't, like, we trying to gatekeep blackness, when we say certain things like, oh, if you don't do that, then you're not black. Well, really, we try to say, oh, if you don't do that, you're not African American. So it is a big thing of miscommunication. But I will say our knowledge of Africans and even other blacks in the Caribbean stuff is very limited. We're barely taught our own history. So, it's really not likely that you'll come across a lot of us who really know what that means to be a black person from another country outside of America. Even our idea of slavery is based off of American slavery, And I don't know, I don't know why I'm out of breath. I think it's the sweatshirt. But yeah, like everything we know is very American based. So I can understand how that could be frustrating for immigrant blacks, I should say, or non-American blacks. But at the same time, you got to understand like how we were brought up because of the history of this country and how race plays a major part in how we function in this society. We African Americans, we only kind of worry more about our race than our ethnicity, which I think is becoming more and more of a problem, because I do think we should learn to have more ethnic pride, as more and more people from other places move into the country. It's kind of like, it's important to set those boundaries about who you are as a person and not just lump everybody into this box as if we're just a straight razor one type of way. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that was basically my experience growing up. I will say growing up I did have like Caribbean friends, and I've had a couple West Indian Caribbean friends from Virgin Islands, the Bahamas and places like that. But it never really occurred to me like what that really meant. Like, like I said, we grow up in a race-based society, so it's like you black, I'm black, we black. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much, it wasn't until I became really an adult, or maybe in my late teens, like 18, 19, that I started to really begin to understand, like, oh, you're a different kind of black. Like, well, you black, but you a different kind of black, And I think it's important for us as African Americans to start trying to, we don't have to kiss nobody's ass, but we should try to learn more about, where people come from, or at least have an idea, because I can admit that a lot of my people, they just don't understand like the idea of ethnicity. It's just black, 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 you know what I'm saying? I know I was playing, one time I played Yay by Burna Boy. My mama was like, oh, is this a Jamaican song? And so it's just like, it's either we have no idea about other ethnicities, or it's very limited. Like, you either Jamaican or you either are Nigerian. Like, those are our two main ethnic groups that we kind of have a gist of, because they are so heavily populated in America. But I will say, and I can admit this, that we as African Americans, we can be ignorant in regards to other black people from different parts of the world. With my next point, I want to talk about how African Americans are viewed by other black people from other parts of the world. So I read this book once. It's by Maya Angelou. It's called, I don't know why I didn't write this shit down before I started talking. Oh, Jesus. Okay. The book by Maya Angelou is called All God's Children Need Traveling Shoes. And it's really part of her biography and her life, but it's about when she moved to Africa. I think it was the 1950s and the 1960s, a lot of black Americans were moving back to Africa. They were with the whole, Pan-Africanist, Stokely Carmichael of the Black Panthers, and, the whole Marcus Garvey idea was just like, forget America, we're going to go back to Africa and live, because that's the only way that we can escape racism and bigotry, basically. So a lot of black people went back to Africa. A lot of people don't know that. They settled in Ghana, Nigeria, Egypt, all kind of places, you know what I'm saying? But Maya Angelou, before she ended up in Ghana, she stayed in Egypt. She ended up in Ghana, and just reading that book, it really kind of, put what it means to be African American into perspective for me a little bit more, because it's like, we think our only issues is racism, but other people kind of view us in a negative light, again, because how we are portrayed in the media, and because of certain experiences that people might have with somebody that comes from our background. So it's like, we think our only issue is racism, but it's like, if we was to go somewhere where everybody's black, we still wouldn't be liked. We'll still be at the bottom of the totem pole, because a lot of these black people who left America and went to Africa, they go to these countries and they would not be able to get jobs. They apply for jobs, but they would lose out on them to, Native Africans. So they were disrespected. There was a lot of xenophobia towards African Americans. So it's just like, people have this idea that we're the ones that kind of start the xenophobia within the black community, but I think it goes all around. I just think that, generally speaking, African Americans don't really leave America, not since that time period at least. So you can't really just say, we're the ones who are the xenophobic and ignorant ones, because I think it's across the diaspora, y'all. Like, honestly, everybody be on some bullshit. I do think, like, a lot of Africans specifically think that black Americans are ghetto and uneducated and lazy and stuff like that. And me, like, I can be pretty honest about myself, and I can see why they say that, but I gotta be honest, I think it's kind of disrespectful to be in America and say things like that, because a lot of people had to die for the right of other black people to migrate into this country. A lot of people. A lot of lynching, a lot of, getting spat on and called all types of niggers, just for y'all to come to this country and view us in the same way that white people view us is kind of ironic to me. But like I said, I can admit that, my people in present day society, they got some fucked up ways. So I can understand a little bit, but at the same time, when you generalize African Americans, I think you're doing yourself an injustice, because, you know, a lot of Africans come here and they succeed. You know, they go to the top colleges and become doctors, lawyers, and engineers and stuff like that. But I don't think it should be ignored that, you know, African Americans were the people who kick down those barriers and those doors for them to come and do that. You know, they had to get spat on, they had to get called type niggas. You know, the first black people to be doctors and lawyers and engineers in this country were African Americans. A lot of them are still alive to this day. You know, that wasn't that long ago in this country. So I do feel some type of way when people stereotype us like that, you know, because I feel like we kind of dip into a little bit of everything. You know, some people can be doctors, lawyers, and engineers in our community. Some people can be rappers. Some people can be comedians. Some people can be, you know, they can work at Ross. You know, we don't discriminate. Everybody is in some type of something. You know what I'm saying? So I do feel some type of way when people come at us like that, because it's like, you know, you're really tripping. If you know the history of this country, you would know, like, we don't just do one thing, you know. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel like that in regards to Africans. Now, in regards to Caribbean people, like, I ain't gonna lie, in the South, it's not a lot of Caribbean people, you know. I feel like African Americans who live in New York City kind of have more run-ins, I say, with Caribbean people, where they might have some type of conflict or whatever. But in the South, it's kind of like, a lot of the Caribbeans have, I guess, assimilated into it, because like you kind of wouldn't know a Caribbean from a African American in the South, because it's like I'm not saying they deny their heritage, but it's kind of like, you know, they just get in where they fit in, and it's not like they kind of try to distinguish themselves and be like, oh no, I'm not like you blacks. I think that kind of happens more up north and like in Florida than it does like in the deep South. So it was social media where I first learned that, oh wait, they kind of beefing with us too, goddamn. You know, I felt the way, because it's like, with Caribbeans, I feel like, and they'll swear up and down, we just so different, but I really, just growing up and having friends and just listening to their music and stuff, like, I really don't think it's that much of a difference. Like, obviously, two different cultures, yes, okay, but it's like, as people, I'll get along more with Caribbean people than I do African people, because I feel like our culture is more similar to Caribbean culture. They'll never admit it, and some African Americans won't admit it, but I do think that we share a lot of similarities, and that has a lot to do with, you know, our history. You know, our ancestors were brought to various countries in the Western world and enslaved, so we do share that history. Neither of us know where our original ancestors came from. We don't know if they came from Ghana. We don't know the village name. We don't know our original surnames. You know, we share that story as far as slavery goes and our history. But obviously, if you go to the Caribbean, a lot of these countries are predominantly black. So these people live in countries that are where everybody looks like you, you know. So they don't really understand. A lot of people from the Caribbean, when they come to America, they don't really understand where we're coming from, in the sense that they coming from somewhere where everybody looks like them. So racism is not really a factor, you know. It was a factor when slavery existed and when the British were controlling their government before they got their independence. But after that, it's kind of like they just been big chilling, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, they come here and I don't think they carry the weight of racism and a lot of the stuff black people go through in the country, and Africans neither. I don't think they have the same burden that we as African Americans carry. You know, a lot of us, it's not just a general story. Like, we got stories in our direct families of, you know, the horrors of racism. So it hits a little bit home, closer to us than it might foreign blacks. It's not to say they don't experience racism or they don't understand the system, but it's like, you know, it's kind of like you have to be us and be in our shoes to really understand why we are the way we are, you know. But like I said, Caribbean people, I never really had an issue with them in real life. I've never had nobody that's Caribbean just come up to me and be like, yo, y'all niggas Like, y'all just the different type of black, you know. But I see it on social media a lot, so obviously a lot of them feel that way. I don't know, it's because they face some ignorance too, because, you know, a lot of people have confused Caribbean immigrants, not first gens or second gens, but immigrants with Africans. So maybe they got some of that flack that Africans kind of got when they came over and they feel some type of way. I don't know. If you Caribbean, leave a comment in below and let me know, like, what your thoughts are on why, you know, there's kind of beef between us. One of the things that bothered me, I saw something like, what's the girl name? I ain't gonna say her name because it don't matter. But she tweeted something and it was like, Black Americans or non-Caribbeans shouldn't be able to participate in carnival or something like that. And it's like, you know, when people do that sometimes, it kind of bothers me because I feel like as African Americans, we kind of just, we don't hold our culture close to us like that when it comes to other black people. With white people, it's a little bit different. With Hispanic people, a little tiny different. But, you know, with other black people, it's never been like, oh, you're not African American, you can't sing R&B, or oh, you're not African American, you can't come and eat, you know, come and dance or come talk. You know what I'm saying? It's never been like that for us. Like, we never discriminate against blacks. You might have had some ignorant comments said to you, but it was never like, oh, we're gonna shun ourselves from you or something like that. And so I felt some type of way because it's like, first of all, carnival exists in America. It exists in Louisiana, it exists in Texas, and that's called Mardi Gras. Now, I understand different Caribbean countries have different reasons for why they celebrate carnival, but it's like some of those reasons are emancipation from slavery. We've experienced emancipation from slavery. I'm not saying like we entitled to be a part of that culture, but I don't think anybody should be questioning why Black Americans are at Juve. You know what I'm saying? Because my ass done been up in Juve turning up many a times. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and I would feel some type of way to be like, when people are like, oh, you Black American, y'all ruining this, or y'all infiltrating our culture, like, you know. And I think that's another, I'll talk about that at a later time, but I do think, like I said, because we're in a race-based society, we kind of, you know, we kind of open to everybody that's black, but everybody that's black is not open to us. But moving right along, that's the whole issue with Caribbean people. You know, I really don't see why the issue is there, because like I said, I don't feel like the culture is that different, you know, especially, you know, like, I don't know, a lot of stuff they say that's different is really the same stuff like my parents' generation was doing. So it's like, you know, like certain cultural norms and expectations and stuff, and how strict they, you know, that's just Black Americans pre-1980, you know. And only I know this because I was raised by those type of people. But I mean, I guess they think that everybody mama had them at 16 years old, or everybody mama was strung out on drugs or something. So maybe they think we can't relate to their upbringing, but I beg to differ. The last point is Afro-Latinos. I never really just had no beef with no Afro-Latinos. My first encounter was in middle school with two guys from Colombia. These guys were darker than me and they had natural 4C hair. But if you told them that they were black, they would go the fuck off on your ass. So it's like, to me, a lot of Afro-Latinos are kind of, I think it's changing, but I think they've always kind of be like, I ain't black. Because then, like I said, you know, our concept of ethnicity and race is different in different areas. So in Colombia, it's like, you Colombian, you're not black, you know, because they think when you say that they're black, that you're trying to say that they're African American. And so they reject that. Dominicans and all of them, when you say that they're black, they're like, black, you know, what you talking about? I'm Colombian, I'm Colombiano. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's really what I could say about Afro-Latinos, is they kind of deny their blackness more than any other group, I would say. And I think it has a lot to do with, you know, their country and the setup of race in their societies. But I don't think it's like they purposely trying to say that they're not black. Like, I'm sure they know that they're of African descent, but they don't understand that black doesn't necessarily mean African American, you know? So yeah, about the wars. Honestly, y'all, it's just like it's so terrible. Like the things that we say to each other as Black people, and I'm guilty of it because I know on YouTube I saw this video of this Haitian lady just talking mad shit about us African Americans, and I went off on her ass, and I know I said some shit that wasn't right. And so that's what I think it is. Our problem is that, hurt people hurt people. So I think we've all hurt each other in one way or another. So it kind of continues amongst each other, especially in America. I've heard stories that, like in the UK, since there's not really no African Americans, it's just Black Caribbeans and Black Africans that make up the Black population over there. So they kind of have their own beef going on in the UK with each other, and they don't have African Americans to say, oh, well, these people are xenophobic. But in America, I think it's kind of like Africans and Caribbeans don't really have beef with each other. They just got beef with us, and we got beef with them, That's how I think it is. But honestly, people say the nastiest shit, you know what I'm saying? And I can kind of feel where they're coming from, because Africans got teased like shit growing up. And I'd be the first to say, I know I said some negative shit to an African. Because I remember this one girl, she was I feel like she was just so stuck up. But she was just super, super smart. And, I don't think she was intentionally trying to look down on the class or her classmates. But she kind of gave the vibe off like, I'm better than you niggas. And so me and her got into it. And I know I called her some type of African booty scratcher. I'd be the first to admit that shit. And I definitely wouldn't lie about it. But it's just like, what possessed me? Because my parents never, and I never heard that type of language from my parents talking about I don't even know where that word came from, booty scratcher, And honestly, because growing up, I've seen other African Americans call other African Americans African booty scratcher. If you was dark skinned, you got called African booty scratcher. If you had natural hair, you got called African booty scratcher. If you was ashy that day and you got to put on lotion, African booty scratcher. And so I feel like because a lot of these kids know Africa and they visit and their parents are African, they felt like it was a direct attack on them. But I think it was just ignorance, y'all. Like, honestly, I just feel like that word is just something somebody pulled up out their ass, and unfortunately it kind of turns into a slur. A slur that people use to hurt each other, you know what I'm saying? And so I can understand how Africans feel like when they see African Americans wearing dashikis and power to the people, Pan-African and stuff like that. I can see why they feel away, because it's like, bro, if you got teased all throughout elementary for being named, I don't know, Chiama or something, then I can understand why you just like, oh, so now y'all niggas want to be like that. But I also think you shouldn't reject it, because it's like, people are trying to change. It's kind of like how back in the day, if you had natural hair, people would be like, oh girl, you need a perm, your hair is nappy. And now everybody and their mama is natural. And it's a good thing, you know what I'm saying? It's a good thing that we starting to change our ideologies and, educate ourselves about the motherland, because y'all, let me just tell y'all, the African American, Africa will always be the missing piece to our puzzle. But that don't mean we have to kiss everybody's ass who come from Africa. But I do think it's our duty to learn about, the continent and the history and stuff like that and the people. But, at the same time, we've been in this country for a long time. We about 400 years removed from the motherland. So it's like, we've had to pick up our own pieces and pick up ourselves and push forward. And, unfortunately, we had to forget about the motherland, because it wasn't no going back. You know what I'm saying? Now there's the opportunity, but it's like our whole lineage is in this country. So I'm not judging nobody who wants to move back to Africa, but it's like, bruh, you'll never be accepted. Like, I'm not saying everybody gonna hate you when you go over there, but you gonna always feel like an outsider. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, why not stay with your people, visit Africa, learn about the people and the culture? But like, for people, I just never understood how people just up and leave and go back to Africa and leave everything they ever knew behind. Like, that's kind of absurd, especially knowing that, you know, they trying to get over here for a better life. So it's like, what are you in search of that's over here that you can't create for yourself over here? You know what I'm saying? Go and experience the country, but you got a whole people and a whole culture that's in America that you leaving behind. So I never understood that, but nonetheless, I don't know. I just feel like over time, I hope that we can all come together and be one people, like coexist without having to assimilate within each culture, you know what I'm saying? Because I've seen some terrible, terrible examples of assimilation from black immigrants and vice versa, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, I can never be a Jamaican or a Trinidadian or a Nigerian or a Ghanaian, and they can never be African American, even if they've been in America all their life, you know what I'm saying? That history, that culture, that whatever, you know what I'm saying, that belongs to me, and their culture belongs to them. As far as participation, I feel like you stupid as fuck if you feel like other black people who look like you can't participate in your culture. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? That kind of stuff is stupid. African Americans, this ADOS movement, I don't even want to go on a tangent, but y'all sound stupid as fuck being anti-immigrant, trying to distinguish yourselves from other black people out of malice. You'd rather call yourself an American descendant of slavery than African American because you don't want to be associated with them. And you claim it's because of reparations, but if you keep it in the book, because I've been paying attention to y'all and a lot of the rhetoric that's thrown around within that community, and a lot of y'all are just anti-immigrant. You got mad because some African called you a Kata or some Caribbean person called you a Yankee, and you don't like them. Let's call a spade a spade. And as an African American, I can call y'all out. I'm glad I didn't do a separate video because this really all I need to say to y'all. It's just like, it's so ignorant and it's so counterproductive because it's like, you can get everything that you're in search of for us. Everything that you think will make African Americans progress, you can get it without mentioning immigrants, without mentioning white people. So I don't understand why people are saying, I've seen people say like the African American crime rate is up because they're not counting black immigrants in that percentage, and so they brought our crime rates. Are you serious? Are you serious? A lot of y'all just do not realize how y'all sound like white supremacists. And y'all need to get it together. The whole ADOS and even the FBA movement. I'm so mad that foundational black Americans is something now. Because I think it's a good name, but unfortunately, a lot of y'all are ignorant. A lot of y'all got 30 million American flags in y'all bio. Like y'all some Mississippi. I ain't even gonna say the word I wanted to say, but y'all really look goofy as hell with all them American flags in your bio. Yes, you are American, but y'all need to create your own flag, because that American flag was created when our ancestors were enslaved. So it'll never be 100% a representation of who we are as a people. And then you see Africans and Caribbeans have their own flags and waving it everywhere, and you want that too. And it's okay to admit that, and it's okay to want that for yourself. But create your own and stop flying these American flags like this. Yes, you are American. If you're a vet, I understand. I got the utmost respect for you. But stop just flying it everywhere like it's a symbol of who you are, because you look goofy as hell. You look dumb. And so I just wanted to say that. I'm going to leave that at that, because I can't make a whole video. I did make a video on ADOS, and it's just like, I was just so angry. Like when I replayed it back, like the anger that was coming out of my mouth, the energy of anger that was coming from me was just like, it was too much, you know what I'm saying? Because y'all really got y'all priorities messed up. That whole movement is trash, and it's gonna go down. And y'all can stay on that ship and go down with that ship, but I, for one, will not be on that ship. I'm all for reparations. I'm all for getting what is owed to us in the name of our ancestors. But the ADOS movement and the FBA movement, I just cannot get jiggy with. Point blank, period. One thing I wanted to briefly touch on is Cynthia Erivo, who just recently played Harriet Tubman in her biopic. People are coming at her for playing Harriet, right? And it's because she made comments in the past, negative comments in the past about Black Americans. She hanged with other Nigerian people, such as Lovey, who have in the past said negative things about Black Americans. My thing is this: it don't really bother me so much that foreign Black people are playing African American characters, African American icons in films and stuff like that. Because honestly, I wouldn't know any difference if it wasn't social media. But I do have a problem when you speak down on Black Americans and then build a career off of playing those roles. Because now I hear Cynthia Erivo is about to play Aretha in not the main biopic, but some TV show that they supposedly having a based off of Aretha's life. And it's like, how you gon', and she haven't apologized, y'all. Oh, I said apologize. She haven't apologized to Black Americans. She haven't issued a statement or anything like that. She just been living her life, and she still get casted. Her first big thing that she played in was Celie from The Color Purple on Broadway. Then she played Harriet, and now she about to play Aretha Franklin. All I'm saying is this: if you're gonna do that, you need to have respect for African Americans, point blank, period. Because it's like, how dare you build a career off of playing icons of African American descent and then fix your mouth to say something negative? Some of the ADOS movement is turning this into something like, oh, she should be African American and she gonna play this role. I do not think that, y'all. Because a lot of the people that y'all think is African American is really Caribbean. Cicely Tyson, Sidney Poitier, all these great Black actors who have played African American roles are really of other descent. So it don't bother me that, you know, a non-American Black is playing an American Black character. But it's like, have respect for the people. A lot of foreigners don't believe that African American culture is a legitimate culture. And that's an issue. Especially if you're in America, that's an issue. And y'all can say I'm biased towards my own people, but this is just my feelings and my thoughts about that. If you feel a different way, you could leave a comment and we can chat about it, you know. But I do feel like, hey, if you in America, there should be a level of respect. If an African American disrespects you, you could disrespect them back. But when you generalize and you talk shit about the whole ethnicity, that's a major problem. Because, like I said, if you know the history of this country, you know America wouldn't be what it is today without us. So it's like, when you gonna beef, if you're gonna beef with somebody from another ethnicity, and this goes for all Black people, get on they ass directly and stop saying, oh, Nigerians are this. Stop saying Haitians, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, just stop it. And I have to tell that to myself sometimes, because it's like, you know, when Black people get into the roaster thing, we just go for blood. But we have to get out of that shit, okay? So yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say. Cynthia Erivo, baby, get you some diversity, get you some variety in your life, and stop trying to play every African American character that you see that gets thrown your way, and stop, you know, trying to build your career off of that. There's so many great Nigerian, and she's Nigerian British, by the way. So many great Black British people, so many great Nigerian people that you could play in a movie, in a TV show. Stop building your career off of African Americans for clout, because our stories get the most traction. Stop trying to go for that Oscar, and have respect for the ethnicity, the culture in which you are aligning yourself with for a check. So yeah, guys, that's all I wanted to say. I just had to get those things off my chest. I never did a rant video before. I'm kind of nervous and shaking on this thing. I know I'm gonna look back at this footage like, girl, you look a mess. But I had to get that off my chest. If you feel a different type of way, if you have something you want to add to the conversation, please leave a comment below, because this is a very important subject to me. I'm very passionate about, African American culture, African American history, and just Black history in general. I like learning about Black people from all parts of the world. Like, I don't discriminate whatsoever. So leave a comment. We can have a dialogue. I tell you how I feel, you tell me how you feel, and we can go from there. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.